yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay.
Make the Yuletide gay.
From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Through the years, we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Don't want a lot for Christmas. There's just one thing I need. I don't care about those presents underneath the Christmas tree. So I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. You know that all I want for Christmas is you. Won't ask for much this Christmas. I won't even wish for snow. No, I'm just gonna keep on waiting underneath the mistletoe. There's no sense in hanging stockings there upon the fireplace, 'cause Santa, he won't make me happy with a toy on Christmas Day. I just want you here tonight, holding on to me so tight. Girl, what can I do? You know that all I want for Christmas is you. And all the lights are shining so brightly everywhere, and the sound of children's laughter fills the air, and everyone is singing. I can hear those sleigh bells ringing. Santa, won't you bring me the one I really love? Won't you please bring my baby to me? I don't want a lot for Christmas. This is all I'm asking for. No, I just wanna see my baby standing right outside my door. I just want you for my own, more than you could ever know. Make my wish come true. You know that all I want for Christmas is you. Is you.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. Since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you'll really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. As long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Doesn't care if it's 10 below. He's sitting by the fire's cozy glow. He don't care about the cold. the store. Why should he worry when he's nice and warm? His gal by his side and the lights turn low. He just says, let it snow, let it snow. I don't care.
The weather outside is frightful, but that fire is delightful. Since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought lots of corn for popping. The lights are way down low, so let it snow, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally say goodnight, how I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you'll only hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbye. Long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Pepe hands.
Hey guys, happy Christmas Eve and whatever other holiday is celebrated on this day. I have set up a fireplace on top of my bed for this cozy evening of I'm going to be reading some a story to you guys, and considering that the only book that I own physically is Game of Thrones, that is what we will be reading today. The first book, A Game of Thrones. Yeah. We're just gonna be reading a little bit of that. I'm actually reading it, and I'm a bit into it. We might even just get up to where I am, so I won't have to like read past. I don't know. It's interesting. That's all I got for today. Set that there. How's your night going? Oh, I got this cup. It's warm. I got this like nice fancy cup or whatever. Also for the highlighted messages. Thanks guys for that. Hey.
Opens stream I lost. Stays anyway.
Thanks Typical for the 6 months with Prime. I also have, my mom gave me these like tiny wine bottles.
Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, Mrs. Claus, Mrs. Claus, Santa 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 Claus.
Thank you for the 100 bits, Dom, and the other 100 that you sent. Here's some wine that I'm probably not going to like. It's red blend from Italy. Cheers, chat. We'll just sit that there for some ambiance or whatever. I don't know. 022X, thank you for the Prime sub. Buddy, how are you doing? Merry Christmas, dude. Thank you for the Prime. Classic Storm ignoring me? Wait, ignoring what? What?
So classy. Wow.
I wasn't reading chat! I didn't literally read anything that anyone said. I was reading my alerts. I wasn't even reading chat. XN, thank you for the 12 months. So classy. Wow. Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. I know. Pinky's out, boys. I think you said you're leaving. Okay. Literally leaves as soon as I start streaming. Alerts? Oh, Tim. Thanks for the 100 biddies. Oh, that was you with the Santa Claus. Oh, I don't know why I read that as Dom. I just expected that as like a Dom thing to do. My bad. Thank you, dude. I never would have expected you to do that. That's why. But you're leaving, Tim? Okay. Thanks for the 100 bits, and I guess have a good night. It's me, Rena? Rena. Rena? The one with the anime voice, Rena? Also, hi guys. Yes? Oh, hi, Rena. Let's actually try this. Is this good? It doesn't. It smells like feet. Dude, wine? Anyone in here a wine connoisseur? Because this smells like feet. Like straight up stinky toes. Yeah, that's actually not even bad. I worked at Bevmo? What the fuck's a Bevmo? I like wine. Meet me in my pre-living room. We could talk about the finer things in life. Pungent. This actually isn't that bad. Holy shit, wow. Dude! Dude, it smells pretty bad. But, like, I could drink that. Dude, I could literally get fucking wasted on red wine right now. Holy fuck! Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. I left my smoothie on the table again. Hello, everybody. I'm back. And I have a smoothie that I eat with a spoon. Great. It's going from claw to red wine. I'm sophisticated, alright? Only classy sophisticators go for the red wine over the claw. I actually took a picture of like a whole stack of black cherry claw that I was gonna send to Nanner and then I forgot. Hi, Joey. Hey, New here. Hi, New here. I'm Storm. I read things, and I'm also a classy bitch. How you doing? If you like someone who's socially awkward, has family issues, and is funny sometimes, but also likes to drink tea and play video games, welcome, dude. That's me. Merry Christmas. I prefer a cheap rosé. Yo, Nanner, I'm with you. I like Creator, therefore I like you. What's a Creator? Is that Dom TV Awards nominee for most Monka W moment of the year, Stormfall33? Wait, what did I do? I don't even know the nominees. I don't even know what's going on. So, good evening. He's an Australian Twitch streamer with a godly mustache. Oh! Yeah, I don't know much about Australian, streamers. The only one I know of is Knight Sinclair. Completely different time zone. I wouldn't be able to know that. I have some white Zinfandel. Sick. But sounds fun. Anyway. How you guys doing? Tonight? On this fine eve of eves. The eve of eves. How you gonna diss Alana like that? True. She doesn't stream that much on Twitch. Doing alright, I got to work early today. Pog! I would expect that, considering it's the day before Christmas. If anyone's still at work, what are you- why? Is that a fireplace on your bed? Yeah. It's not- it's magic. It actually can turn on into and heat. Like, actually exude heat. But I felt like that was a bad idea, so I decided to not turn it on. I just want to be fancy as fuck here. I'm still at my office. When do you leave? If I still worked at Starbucks, I'd be there right now for sure. They're open? No way. Dude, literally Walmart is closing at 6. Everything is closing in like 15 minutes. 20 minutes. Fancy as fuck, that's not even a red wine glass? What is it? It's just a glass, dude. It's got like a bunch of crystals on it or whatever. I don't know. I pulled it out of the cabinet. I was like, yo, do you guys got wine glasses? And they're like, yeah, sure, take this. I'm like, alright. Last year we closed at 7. Oh yeah. My Publix is also open till 7. East Coast? Yes, East Coast. How's goes the evening, fine gentlemen? Publix South then? Are you trying to get my equations, dude? My latitude and longitude? Yeah, I'm from Florida. I'll make it easier for you. I live in Florida. Red wine glasses usually are pretty wide so it can breathe. Well, I'm working with what I was given, dude. As is life. My equations, my latitude and longitude. I'm not even debating you. This is pretty good. What is this shit? Dude, Festive Collection Red Blend Wine of Italy. It says a soft, juicy, and fruity red with flavors of plum, raspberry, and black currant. Partner this with light pasta dishes, cold meat, or white cheese. 12% alcohol. Damn. Oh shit. Okay. Southern God. Just trying to Sherlock Holmes it, LMAO. So you lean more on sweet wines? I don't really drink wine. I'm only doing this for stream. If I'm drinking anything, I'd rather have a rosé. Like, it just tastes better. It's like bubblier, sweeter. I'm not into those fucking... I'm not into like the whole wine taste. I'll drink a good claw now and again. Nanner got me hooked on that one. I think she leans no matter what wine she drinks. Okay, dude. Okay, I'm wrong? Wrong about what? I'm just wrong? That's my life. Anything? Great. Alright, so I'm apologizing for the sniffles now. I don't know what's wrong with me, and doctors say that it just might be death, so... I'll break out the claw tonight if we're hanging. I don't know if I'll have time to hang tonight, because I have to make cookies for people, and it's annoying, but I have to do it anyway, and... I don't know, I was probably gonna cuddle in bed and watch Witcher for the rest of the night. TBH. It's chill, I'm half Italian, was raised on knowing my wines. It can be a bit of a toughie. Oh, sick. What part of Italy are you from? Your family, I guess. You making cookies at 4 AM, bruh? Yeah, yes. Well, after stream. So after I'm done streaming, it'll probably be like around 7 or 8, and I will go make cookies. Why do you have to do it? Because if I don't, I will be on bad terms, basically. And it just proves harder for my life if I don't do it. It sucks. What a fucking liar, dude. What a fucking Weasley little liar, dude. What is this? Alright. So... Dom TV award show. I don't understand what awards are being given out, and I don't know what the nominees are. I don't know what the presentation is going to be. I don't know anything about it. I don't even know when it's going to happen. It doesn't have an announced date. Jesus, taking up my entire chat box. Do you want to debut some nominees? Sure, let's do it. Judging by the ratio of individual words to text length, is that a trap tweet? Check DMs? Oh no, dude. You're just gonna send me a fuck you! Show dis. He's like, show dis. Okay. One sec. Best original soundtrack? Best- what the fuck's an original soundtrack? Oh no, I know, okay.
And now chat, finally, the moment we've all been waiting for. Here are the nominees for Best Original Soundtrack.
Hi, Dante.
The Ballad of Conan, composed by Dom TV.
I grew up in Russia drinking vodka. My name is Conan and I like to raka. I don't know what words to say, so the song ends. Okay. Alright, moving on.
Up next, Corey in the House. Club Remix.
Amazing.
Featuring Lil Nas X and SSB Bleb.
That's for you to make up and for me to listen.
Corey in the house.
Oh my fucking god.
Oh my, that was nice.
Oh god. Our next nominee is Kaysant, for her performance of Night Call, as seen
That
in
was
the
a good
movie
runner.
Drive.
That was I feel like it's got a chance, a great chance.
I'm giving you a night call to tell you how. Wait. How. Something. I'm gonna drive you through the night.
Chat, I am so sorry you had to listen to that. Okay. Next up, the Big Chungus himself, Two Salads, is nominated for his rendition of an opera classic.
Oh no, I haven't seen this.
No, you're looking at the wrong.
Congratulations and good luck to all of the nominees, except Casent. Let's get back to the show.
Oh my god. Holy shit. Holy fuck. So now I think that one might be the winner. Wait, how is the voting gonna work? Dude, it's I don't I have no clue what I'm doing. Dude. That was pretty good. That was fucking that was beautiful. That was exquisite. It really was. Twitch poll? Oh yeah, you might as well just do a poll, I guess. World premiere. Fireplace. Yes. Beautiful, amazing. Can someone explain what that award thing is? So a friend, here, named DomTV, also has a stream. DomTV/twitch.tv/DomTV. Fuck, so many TVs. And he's going to be holding a, award show. The DomTV Awards. For, like, just a bunch of stuff that's gone on in the community. His community, my community, other stuff. Just basically his own little award show. It's funny. It's a great idea. The categories so far are most Monka. Oh, most Monka W moment, best original soundtrack, best debate, most aggressive roast of the year, and best edit. Hey, Stormfall, how you doing? Hi, Ferb. Oh, hi, Keandre. How you doing, Keandre? If I don't win best debate, I'm gonna be mad. Wait, what would your debate? Wait, dude, you didn't include the birthday song. The da 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 for best soundtrack. Like, that was like a ballad between all of us. Hi, Storm, I hope you're well, and Merry Christmas when it comes. Hi, Frankie, I hope you're well too, dude. Thank you for Christmas wishes. I hope you're great and you drink hot chocolate and you love your cat and your family and you get lots of presents and not hit by a snowmobile. Don't worry, that's in there. Just gave Dom a follow to see it. Notice on it all. Pog! Dude, I'm plugging you in my own stream. Wow, who would have thunk? Alright, boys. Time to get to stories. I know this is exactly what you all have come here for. It's for me to sniffle into this goddamn mic. I will try not to do it as much as possible. I will just not breathe. So, the story we're going to be reading today in front of this magical fireplace with some wine is A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. The first book. This one's for Melinda, is what it says. I mean, this is like good for like if you guys want just something on in the background, sort of like an audiobook type of thing. And just like if you want like just something ambience in the background of whatever you're doing, or if you just want to chill and hang, up to you. I know this isn't like premiere content, but I just thought it'd be a nice idea to do for Christmas Eve. You know, yeah. I don't know what voices I'm gonna do though. I want to do some voices, but this is hard. Also, is this pronounced Jared or Garrett? Can we get a coloring book and you can be an artist? I don't have a coloring book. Sadly, I would erase. Remember when she roasted you for reading just the other day? Erase, please. Dude, there's literally no sexual actions happening in like the first 70 pages. Okay, we're starting. No talking, it's reading time. Prologue. We should start back, Jared urged as the woods began to grow dark around them. The wildlings are dead. Do the dead frighten you? Sir Waymar Royce asked with just the hint of a smile. Jared did not rise to the bait. He was an old man, past 50, and he had seen the lordlings come and go. Dead is dead, he said. We have no business with the dead. Are they dead? Royce asked softly. What proof have we? Will saw them, Jared said. If he says they are dead, that's proof enough for me. Will had known they would drag him into the quarrel sooner or later. He wished it had been later rather than sooner. My mother told me that dead men sing no songs, he put in. My wet nurse said the same thing, Will, Royce replied. Never believe anything you hear at a woman's tit. There are things to be learned even from the dead. His voice echoed, too loud in the twilight forests. We have a long ride before us, Jared pointed out. 8 days, maybe 9, and night is falling. Sir Waymar Royce glanced at the sky with disinterest. It does that every day about this time. Are you unmanned by the dark, Jared? Will could see the tightness around Jared's mouth, the barely suppressed anger in his eyes, under the thick black hood of his cloak. Jared had spent 40 years in the Night's Watch, man and boy, and he was not accustomed to being made light of. Yet it was more than that. Under the wounded pride, Will could sense something else in the older man. You could taste it, a nervous tension that came perilously close to fear. Will shared his unease. He had been 4 years on the wall. The first time he had been sent beyond, all the old stories had come rushing back, and his bowels had turned to water. He had laughed about it afterward. He was a veteran of 100 rangings by now, and the endless dark wilderness that the Southern called the Haunted Forest had no more terrors for him. Until tonight. Something was different tonight. There was an edge to this darkness that made his hackles rise. 9 days they had been riding. North and northwest and the north again. Farther and farther from the wall. Hard on the track of a band of wildling raiders. Each day had been worse than the day that had come before it. Today was the worst of all. A cold wind was blowing out of the north, and it made the trees rustle like living things. All day, Will had felt as though something were watching him. Something cold and implacable that loved him not. Jared had felt it too. Will wanted nothing so much as to ride hell-bent for the safety of the wall, but that was not a feeling to share with your commander. Especially not a commander like this one. Sir Waymar Royce was the youngest son of an ancient house with too many heirs. He was a handsome youth of 18, gray-eyed and graceful and slender as a knife, mounted on his huge black destrier. I think I said that wrong. Well, thank you for the 1 bit. Toss a coin to your witcher,
Chat,
dude.
I must go, but I hope you all have a great holiday. Thanks for being cool. Peepo love.
Dom, thank you for gifting 5 subs, dude. I really appreciate it. And for the 300 bits. I hope you have a great Christmas, dude. Thank you. For all that you do. You're a cool dude. No, you. Where was I? Bye-bye. The knight towered above Will and Jared on their smaller garrons. He wore black leather boots, black woolen pants, black moleskin gloves, and a fine supple coat of gleaming black ringmail over layers of black wool and boiled leather. Sir Waymar had been a sworn brother of the Night's Watch for less than half a year, but no one could say he had not prepared for his vacation. At least, insofar as his wardrobe was concerned. His cloak was his crowning glory, sable, thick and black and soft as sin.
Bet he killed them all himself, he did,
Jared told the barracks over wine.
Twisted their little heads off, our mighty warrior.
They had all shared the laugh. It is hard to take orders from a man you laughed at in your cups. Will reflected as he sat shivering atop his garron. Jared must have felt the same.
Mormont said as we should track them, and we did,
Garrett said.
Jared. They're dead, they shan't trouble us no more. There's hard riding before us. I don't like this weather. If it snows, we could be a fortnight getting back, and the snow's the best we can hope for. Ever seen an ice storm, my lord?
The lordling seemed not to hear him. He studied the deepening twilight in that half-bored, half-distracted way he had. Will had ridden with the night long enough to understand that it was best not to interrupt him when he looked like that. Tell me again what you saw, Will. All the details, leave nothing out. Will had been a hunter before he joined the Night's Watch. Well, a poacher in truth. Mallister free-riders had caught him red-handed in the Mallister's own woods, skinning one of the Mallister's own bucks. And it had been a choice of putting on the black or losing a hand. No one could move through the woods as silent as Will, and it had not taken the Black brothers long to discover his talent.
The camp is 2 miles farther on, over that ridge, hard beside a stream, Will said. I got close as I dared. There's 8 of them, men and women both, no children I could see. They put up a lean-to against the rock. The snow is pretty well covered in now, but I could still make it out. No fire burning, but the fire pit was still plain as day. No one moving. I watched a long time. No living man ever lay so still.
Did you see any blood?
Well, no.
Did you see any weapons? Some swords, a few bows. One man had an axe. Heavy-looking, double-bladed, a cruel piece of iron. It was on the ground beside him, right by his hand.
Did you make note of the position of the bodies?
Will shrugged. A couple are sitting up against the rock. Most of them are on the ground, fallen-like.
Or sleeping,
Royce suggested.
Fallen,
Will insisted. There's one woman up and on iron wood, half hid in the branches, afar eyes. He smiled thinly. I took care she never saw me. When I got closer, I saw that she wasn't moving neither. Despite himself, he shivered. You have a chill? Royce asked.
Some,
Will muttered. The wind, my lord. The young knight turned back to his grizzled man-at-arms. Frost-fallen leaves whispered past them, and Royce's destrier moved restlessly. What do you think might have killed these men, Jared? Sir Waymer asked, casually. He adjusted the drape of his long sable cloak.
It was the cold, Jared said with an iron certainty. I saw men freeze last winter, and the one before, when I was half a boy. Everyone talks about snows 40 foot deep and how the ice wind comes howling out of the north, but the real enemy is the cold. It steals up on you quieter than will, and at first you shiver and your teeth chatter and you stamp your feet and a dream of molded wine and nice hot fires. It burns, it does. Nothing burns like the cold, but only for a while. Then it gets inside you and starts to fill you up, and after a while you don't have to sleep. They say you don't have the strength to fight it. It's easier just to sit down or go to sleep. They say you don't feel any pain toward the end. First you go weak and drowsy and everything starts to fade, and then it's like sinking into a sea of warm milk, peaceful-like.
Such eloquence, Jared, Sir Waymer observed. I never suspected you had it in you.
I've had the cold in me too, lordling.
Jared pulled back his hood, giving Sir Waymer a good long look at the stumps where his ears had been.
2 ears, 3 toes, and a little finger off my left hand. I got off light. We found my brother's frozen at his watch with a smile on his face.
Sir Waymer shrugged. You ought to dress more warmly, Jared. Jared glared at the lordling. The scars around his ear holes flushed red with anger, where Maester Aemon had cut the ears away.
We'll see how warm you can dress when the winter comes.
He pulled up his hood and hunched over his garron, silent and sullen.
If Jared said it was the cold, Will began, have you drawn any watches this past week, Will?
Yes, my lord. There was never a week when he did not draw a dozen bloody watches. What was the man driving at? And how did you find the wall?
Weeping,
Will said, frowning. He saw it clear enough now that the lordling had pointed it out. They couldn't have froze. Not if the wall was weeping. It wasn't cold enough. Royce nodded. Bright lad. We've had a few light frosts this past week and a quick flurry of snow now and then, but surely no cold fierce enough to kill 8 grown men. Men clad in fur and leather. Let me remind you, which shelter near at hand, and the means of making a fire. The knight's smile was cocksure. Will, lead us there. I would see these dead men for myself. And then there was nothing to be done for it. The order had been given, and the honor bound them to obey.
Will went in front, his shaggy little Garen picking the way carefully through the undergrowth. A light snow had fallen the night before, and there were stones and roots and hidden sinks lying just under its crust, waiting for the careless and the unwary. Sir Waymore Royce came next, his great black destrier snorting impatiently. Is it Destier? The warhorse was the wrong mount for ranging, but try and tell that to the lordling. Jared brought up the rear. The old man-at-arms muttered to himself as he rode. Twilight deepened. The cloudless sky turned a deep purple, the color of an old bruise, then faded to black. The stars began to come out. A half-moon rose. Will was grateful for the light. "We can make a better pace with this, surely," Royce said when the moon was full. "Not with this horse," Will said. Fear had made him insolent. "Perhaps my lord would care to take the lead." Sir Waymore Royce did not deign to reply. Somewhere off in the wood a wolf howled. Hi, Beefy. Merry Christmas. Will pulled his Garen over beneath an ancient gnarled ironwood and dismounted. "Why are you stopping?" Sir Waymore asked. "Best go the rest of the way on foot, my lord. It's just over that ridge." Royce paused a moment, staring off into the distance, his face reflective. A cold wind whispered through the trees. His great sable cloak stirred behind like something half alive. "There's something wrong here," Jared muttered. The young knight gave him a disdainful smile. "Is there?" "Can't you feel it?" Jared asked. "Listen to the darkness." Will could feel it. 4 years in the Night's Watch and he had never been so afraid. What was it? Wind? Trees rustling? A wolf? Which sound is it that unmans you so, Jared? When Jared did not answer, Royce slid gracefully from his saddle. He tied the destrier securely to a low-hanging limb, well away from the other horses, and drew his longsword from its sheath. Jewels glittered in its hilt, and the moonlight ran down the shining steel. It was a splendid weapon, castle-forged and new-made from the look of it. Will doubted it had ever been swung in anger. "The trees press close here," Will warned. "That sword'll tank you up, my lord. Better a knife." "If I need instruction, I will ask for it," the young lord said. "Jared, stay here, guard the horses." Jared dismounted. "We need a fire. I'll see to it." "How big a fool are you, old man? If there are enemies in this wood, a fire is the last thing we want." "There's some enemies a fire will keep away," Jared said. "Bears and dire wolves and other things." Sir Waymore's mouth became a hard line. "No fire." Jared's hood shadowed his face, but Will could see the hard glitter in his eyes as he stared at the knight. For a moment he was afraid the older man would go for his sword. It was a short, ugly thing, its grip discolored by sweat, its edge nicked from hard use, but Will could not have given an iron bob for the lordling's life if Jared pulled it from its scabbard. Finally, Jared looked down. "No fire," he muttered low under his breath. Royce took it for acquiescence and turned away. "Lead on," he said to Will. Will threaded through their way through a thicket, then started up the slope to the low ridge where he had found his vantage point under a sentinel tree. Under the thin crust of snow, the ground was damp and muddy, slick footing with rocks and hidden roots to trip you up. Will made no sound as he climbed. Behind him, he heard the soft metallic slither of the lordling's ringmail, the rustle of leaves and muttered curses as reaching branches grabbed at his longsword and tugged on his splendid sable cloak. The great sentinel was right there at the top of the ridge, where Will had known it would be. Its lowest branches a bare foot off the ground. Will slid in underneath, flat on his belly in the snow and the mud, and looked down on the empty clearing below. His heart stopped in his chest. For a moment he dared not breathe. Moonlight shone down on the clearing, the ashes of the fire pit, the snow-covered lean-to, the great rock, the little half-frozen stream. Everything was just as it had been a few hours ago. They were gone. All the bodies were gone. "Gods!" he heard behind him. A sword slashed at the branch as Sir Waymore Royce gained the ridge. He stood there, beside the sentinel, longsword in hand, his cloak billowing behind him as the wind came, outlined notably against the stars for all to see. "Get down!" Will whispered urgently. "Something's wrong!" Royce did not move. He looked down at the empty clearing and laughed. "Your dead men seem to have moved camp, Will." Will's voice abandoned him. He groped for words that did not come. It was not possible. His eyes swept back and forth over the abandoned campsite, stopped on the axe. A huge double-bladed battle axe still lying where he had seen it, untouched, a valuable weapon. On your feet, Will, Sir Waymar commanded. There's no one here. I won't have you hiding under a bush. Reluctantly, Will obeyed. Sir Waymar looked over him with open disapproval. I am not going back to the castle. To Castle Black, a failure on my first ranging. We will find these men. He glanced around. Up the tree. Be quick about it. Look for a fire. Will turned away, wordless. There was no use to argue. The wind was moving. It cut right through him. He went to the tree, a vaulting gray-green sentinel, and began to climb. Soon his hands were sticky with sap, and he was lost among the needles. Fear filled his gut like a metal he could not digest. A meal. He whispered a prayer to the nameless gods of the wood and slipped his dirk free of its sheath. He put it between his teeth to keep both hands free for climbing. The taste of cold iron in his mouth gave him comfort. Down below, the lordling called out suddenly, "Who goes there?" Will heard uncertainty in the challenge. Div, thanks for the 5 months. Happy Christmas. Can we go back 2 pages? I spaced out. No. Nice thighs. Yeah, thanks, dude. Appreciate it. He stopped climbing. He listened. He watched. The woods gave answer, the rustle of leaves, the icy rush of the stream, a distant hoot of a snow owl. The others made no sound. Will saw movement from the corner of his eyes, pale shapes gliding through the wood. He turned his head, glimpsed a white shadow in the darkness, then it was gone. Branches stirred gently in the wind, scratching at one another with wooden fingers. Will opened his mouth to call down a warning, and the words seemed to freeze in his throat. Perhaps he was wrong. Perhaps it had only been a bird, a reflection on the snow, some trick of the moonlight. What had he seen after all? "Will, where are you?" Sir Waymar called. "Can you see anything?" He was turning in a slow circle, suddenly wary. His sword in hand, he must have felt them, as Will felt them. There was nothing to see. "Answer me! Why is it so cold?" It was cold. Shivering, Will clung more tightly to his perch. His face pressed hard against the trunk of the sentinel. He could feel the sweet, sticky sap on his cheek. A shadow emerged from the dark of the wood. It stood in front of Royce. Tall it was, and gaunt and hard as old bones, with flesh pale as milk. Its armor seemed to change color as it moved. Here it was white as new-fallen snow, there black as shadow, everywhere dappled with the deep gray-green of the trees. The patterns ran like moonlight on the water with every step it took. Will heard the breath go out of Sir Waymar's Royce in a long hiss. "Come no farther," the lordling warned. His voice cracked like a boy's. He threw the long sable cloak back over his shoulders to free his arms for battle, and took his sword in both hands. The wind had stopped. It was very cold. The other slid forward on silent feet. In his hand was a long sword like none that Will had ever seen. No human metal had gone into the forging of that blade. It was alive with moonlight, translucent, a shard of crystal so thin that it seemed almost to vanish when seen edge on. There was a faint blue shimmer to the thing, a ghost light that played around its edges, and somehow Will knew it was sharper than any razor. Sir Waymar met him bravely. "Dance with me, then." He lifted his sword high over his head, defiant. His hands trembled from the weight of it, or perhaps from the cold. Yet in that moment, Will thought, he was a boy no longer, but a man of the night's watch. The other halted. Will saw its eyes, blue, bluer than any human's eyes, a blue that burned like ice. They fixed on the longsword, trembling on high, watched the moonlight running cold along the metal. For a heartbeat, he dared to hope. They emerged silently from the shadows, twins to the first. 3 of them. 4, 5. Sir Waymar may have felt the cold that came with them, but he never saw them, never heard them. Will had to call out. It was his duty, and his death if he did. He shivered and hugged the tree and kept the silence. The pale sword came shivering through the air. Sir Waymar met it with steel. When the blades met, there was no ring of metal on metal, only a high, thin sound at the edge of hearing, like an animal screaming in pain. Royce checked a second blow, and a third, then fell back a step. Another flurry of blows, and he fell back again. Behind him, to right, to left, all around him, the watchers stood patient, faceless, silent, the shifting patterns of their delicate armor making them all but invisible in the wood, yet they made no move to interfere. Again and again the swords met until Will wanted to cover his ears against the strange, anguished keening of their clash. Sir Waymar was panting from the effort now, his breath steaming in the moonlight. His blade was white with frost. The others danced with pale blue light. Then Royce's parry came a beat too late. The pale sword bit through the ring mail beneath his arm. The young lord cried out in pain. Blood welled between the rings. It steamed in the cold, and the droplets seemed red as fire where they touched the snow. Sir Raymer's fingers brushed his side. His moleskin glove came away soaked with red. The other said something in a language that Will did not know. His voice was like the cracking of ice on a winter lake, and the words were mocking. Sir Raymer Royce found his fury. "For Robert!" he shouted, and he came up snarling, lifting the frost-covered longsword with both hands and swinging it around in a flat sidearm slash with all his weight behind it. The other's parry was almost lazy. When the blades touched, the steel shattered. A scream echoed through the forest night, and the longsword shivered into 100 brittle pieces. Thank you for the 16 months, Scorpio. Happy Christmas, dude. A scream echoed through the forest night, and the longsword shivered into 100 brittle pieces, the shards scattering like a rain of needles. Royce went to his knees, shrieking, and covered his eyes. Blood welled between his fingers. The watchers moved forward together, as if some signal had been given. Swords rose and fell, all in a deathly silence. It was cold butchery. The pale blade sliced the ring mail as if it were silk. Will closed his eyes. Far beneath him, he heard their voices and laughter sharp as icicles. When he found the courage to look again, a long time had passed, and the ridge below was empty. He stayed in the tree, scarce daring to breathe, while the moon crept slowly across the black sky. Finally, his muscles cramping and his fingers numb with cold, he climbed down. Royce's body lay face down in the snow, one arm outflung. The thick sable cloak had been slashed in a dozen places. Lying dead like that, you saw how young he was. A boy. He found what was left of the sword a few feet away, the end splintered and twisted like a tree struck by lightning. Will knelt, looked around warily, and snatched it up. The broken sword would be his proof. Jared would know what to make of it, and if not him, then surely that old bear Mormont or Maester Aemon. Would Jared still be waiting with the horses? He had to hurry. Will rose. Sir Raymer Royce stood over him. His fine clothes were a tatter, his face a ruin. A shard from his sword transfixed the blind white pupil of his left eye. The right eye was open. The pupil turned blue. It saw. The broken sword fell from nerveless fingers. Will closed his eyes to pray. Long, elegant hands brushed his cheek, then tightened around his throat. They were gloved in the finest moleskin and sticky with blood, yet the touch was icy cold. End of chapter. Prologue. Bran. Sick. So, you guys think of the prologue? Sorry I haven't been reading chat. And thanks for all the subs. First chapter, Bran. The morning had dawned clear and cold, with a crispness that hinted at the end of summer. They set forth at daybreak to see a man beheaded, 20 in all, and Bran rode among them. Nervous with excitement, this was the first time he had been deemed old enough to go with his lord father and his brothers to see the king's justice done. It was the 9th year of summer, and the 7th of Bran's life. The man had taken outside a small holdfast in the hills. Robb thought he was a wildling, his sword sworn to Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall. It made Bran's skin prickle to think of it. He remembered the hearth tales old Nan told them. The wildlings were cruel men, she said, slavers and slayers and thieves. They consorted with giants and ghouls, stole girl children in the dead of night, and drank blood from polished horns, and their women lay with the others in the long night to sire terrible half-human children. But the man they found bound hand and foot to the holdfast, while awaiting the king's justice, was old and scrawny, not much taller than Robb. He had lost both ears and a finger to frostbite, and he dressed all in black, the same as a brother of the Night's Watch, except his furs were ragged and greasy.
The breath of man and a horse mingled, steaming in the cold morning air as his lord father had the man cut down from the wall and dragged before them. Rob and John sat tall and still on their horses, with Bran between them on his pony, trying to seem older than 7, trying to pretend that he'd seen all this before. Fuck, I lost my place. A faint wind blew through the holdfast gate. Over their heads flapped the banner of the Starks of Winterfell, a grey direwolf racing across an ice-white field. No, I lost my place, dude. Bran's father sat solemnly on his horse, long brown hair stirring in the wind. His closely trimmed beard was shot with white, making him look older than his 35 years. He had a grim cast to his grey eyes this day, and he seemed not at all the man who would sit before the fire in the evening and talk softly of the age of heroes and the children of the forest. He had taken off father's face, Bran thought, and donned the face of Lord Stark of Winterfell. There were questions asked and answers given there in the chill of morning, but afterward Bran could not recall much of what had been said. Finally, his father gave a command, and the 2 of his guardsmen dragged the ragged man to the ironwood stump in the center of the square. They forced his head down onto the hard black wood. Lord Eddard Stark dismounted, and his ward, Theon Greyjoy, brought forth the sword. Ice, that sword was called. It was as wide across as a man's hand, and taller even than Robb. The blade was Valyrian steel, spell-forged and dark as smoke. Nothing held an edge like Valyrian steel. His father peeled off his gloves and handed them to Jory Castle, the captain of the household guard. He took hold of Ice with both hands and said, "In the name of Robert, the House of Baratheon, and the first of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm, by the word of Eddard Stark of the House of Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and Warden of the North, I do sentence you to die." He lifted the greatsword high above his head. Bran's bastard brother Jon Snow moved closer. "Keep the pony well in hand," he whispered, "and don't look away. Father will know if you do." Bran kept his pony well in hand and did not look away. His father took off the man's head with a single, sure stroke. Blood sprayed out across the snow, as red as summer wine. One of the horses reared and had to be restrained to keep from bolting. Bran could not take his eyes off the blood. The snows around the stump drank it in eagerly, reddening as he watched. The head bounced off a thick root and rolled. It came up near Greyjoy's feet. Theon was a lean, dark youth of 19 who found everything amusing. He laughed, put his boot on the head, and kicked it away. "Ass," Jon muttered low enough so Greyjoy did not hear. He put a hand on Bran's shoulder, and Bran looked over at his bastard brother. "You did well," Jon told him solemnly. Jon was 14, an old hand at justice. It seemed colder on the long ride back to Winterfell. Though the wind had died by then and the sun was higher in the sky, Bran rode with his brothers well ahead of the main party, his pony struggling hard to keep up with their horses. "The deserter died bravely," Robb said. He was big and broad and growing every day, with his mother's coloring, the fair skin, red-brown hair, and blue eyes of the Tullys of Riverrun. He had courage at the least. "No," Jon Snow said quietly. "It was not courage. This one was dead of fear. You could see it in his eyes, Stark." Jon's eyes were grey, so dark they seemed almost black. But there was a little they did not see. He was an age with Robb, but they did not look alike. Jon was slender, where Robb was muscular. Dark, where Robb was fair. Graceful and quick, where his half-brother was strong and fast. Robb was not impressed. "The others take his eyes," he swore. "He died well. Race to the bridge?" "Done," Jon said, kicking his horse forward. Robb cursed and followed, and they galloped off down the trail, Robb laughing and hooting, Jon silent and intent. The hooves of their horses kicked up showers of snow as they went. Bran did not try to follow. His pony could not keep up. He had seen the ragged man's eyes, and he was thinking of them now. After a while, the sound of Rob's laughter receded, and the woods grew silent again. So deep in thought as he that he never heard the rest of the party until his father moved up to ride beside him. "Are you well, Bran?" he asked, not unkindly. "Yes, father," Bran told him. He looked up, wrapped in his furs and leathers, mounted on his great war horse. His lord father loomed over him like a giant. "Robb says the man died bravely, but Jon says he was afraid." "What do you think?" his father asked. Bran thought about it. "Can a man still be brave if he's afraid?" "That is the only time a man can be brave," his father told him. "Do you understand why I did it?" "He was a wildling," Bran said. "They carry off women and sell them to the others." His lord father smiled. "Old Nan has been telling you stories again. In truth, the man was an oathbreaker, a deserter from the Night's Watch. No man is more dangerous. The deserter knows his life is forfeit if he is taken, so he will not flinch from any crime, no matter how vile. But you mistake me. The question was not why the man had to die, but why I must do it." Bran had no answer for that. "King Robert has a headsman," he said uncertainly. "He does," his father admitted, "as did the Targaryen kings before him. Yet our way is the older way. The blood of the first men still flows in the veins of the Starks, and we hold to the belief that the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. If you would take a man's life, you owe it to him to look into his eyes and hear his final words, and if you cannot bear to do that, then perhaps the man does not deserve to die. One day, Bran, you will be Robb's bannerman, holding a keep of your own for your brother and your king, and justice will fall to you. When that day comes, you must take no pleasure in the task, but neither must you look away. A ruler who hides behind paid executioners soon forgets what death is." That was when Jon reappeared on the crest of the hill before them. He waved and shouted at them. "Father, Bran, come quickly, see what Robb has found!" Then he was gone again. Joy rode up beside them. "Trouble, my lord." "Beyond a doubt," his father said. "Come, let us see what mischief my sons have rooted out now." He sent his horse into a trot. Joy and Bran and the rest came after. They found Robb on the riverbank north of the bridge, with Jon still mounted beside him. The late summer snows had been heavy with this moon turn. Robb stood knee-deep in white, his hood pulled back so the sun shone in his hair. He was cradling something in his arms, while the boys talked in hushed, excited voices. The riders picked their way carefully through the drifts, groping for solid footing on the hidden, uneven ground. Jory Castle and Theon Greyjoy were the first to reach the boys. Greyjoy was laughing and joking as he rode. Bran heard the breath go out of him. "Gods!" he exclaimed, struggling to keep control of his horse as he reached for his sword. Jory's sword was already out. "Robb, get away from it!" he called as his horse reared under him. Robb grinned and looked up from the bundle in his arms. "She can't hurt you," he said. "She's dead, Jory." Bran was afire with curiosity by then. He would have spurred the pony faster, but his father made them dismount beside the bridge and approach on foot. Bran jumped off and ran. One sec. By then, Jon, Jory, and the Theon Greyjoy had all dismounted as well. "What in the seven hells is it?" Greyjoy was saying. "A wolf," Robb told him. "A freak," Greyjoy said. "Look at the size of it." Bran's heart was thumping in his chest as he pushed through a waist-high drift to his brother's side. Half buried in blood-stained snow, a huge dark shape slumped in death. Ice had formed in its shaggy gray fur, and the faint smell of corruption clung to it like a woman's perfume. Bran glimpsed blind eyes crawling with maggots, a mouth wide full of yellowed teeth. But it was the size of it that made him gasp. It was bigger than his pony, twice the size of the largest hound in his father's kennel. One second. Merry Christmas, everybody. Enjoy the book. Thanks, Ninja. You too. Big sad. Gotta go to work on Christmas Eve. Sorry. Had to pause for a second. It's already Christmas? Okay, dude. I don't know. I want to change the music. I feel like this music isn't very vibey for this. One second. I have a playlist of stuff. Let me just play that. Stark theme on repeat. Is this kind of loud? Or is this loud enough? I can't tell because it's like a different volume for me. It's fine? Okay. Put it on. Okay. It's no freak, John said calmly. That's a direwolf. They grow larger than the other kind. Theon Greyjoy said, There's not been a direwolf sighted south of the wall in 200 years. I see one now, John replied. Bran tore his eyes away from the monster. That was when he noticed the bundle in Rob's arms. He gave a cry of delight and moved closer. The pup was a tiny ball of gray-black fur, its eyes still closed. It nuzzled blindly against Rob's chest as he cradled it, searching for milk amongst his leathers, making a sad little whimpery sound. Bran reached out hesitantly. Go on, Rob told him. You can touch him. Bran gave the pup a quick, nervous stroke, then turned as John said, Here you go. His half-brother put a second pup into his arms. There are 5 of them. Bran sat down in the snow and hugged the wolf pup to his face. His fur was soft and warm against his cheek. Direwolves loose in the realm after so many years, muttered Hullen, the master of horse. I like it not. It is a sign, Jory said. Father frowned. This is only a dead animal, Jory, he said, yet he seemed troubled. Snow crunched under his boots as he moved around the body. Do we know what killed her? There's something in the throat, Rob told him, proud to have found the answer before his father even asked. There, just under the jaw. His father knelt and groped under the beast's head with his hand. He gave a yank and held it up for all to see. A foot of shattered antler. Tine snapped off, all wet with blood. A sudden silence descended over the party. The men looked at the antler uneasily, and no one dared to speak. Even Bran could sense their fear, though he did not understand. His father tossed the antler to the side and cleansed his hands in the snow. I'm surprised she lived long enough to whelp, he said. His voice broke the spell. Maybe she didn't, Jory said. I've heard tales. Maybe the bitch was already dead when the pups came. Born with the dead, another man put. Worse luck. No matter, said Hullen. They'd be dead soon enough, too. Bran gave a wordless cry of dismay. The sooner the better, Theon Greyjoy agreed. He drew his sword. Give the beast here, Bran. The little thing squirmed against him as if it heard and understood. No! Bran cried out fiercely. It's mine! Put away your sword, Greyjoy, Robb said. For a moment he sounded as commanding as their father, like the lord he would be someday. We will keep these pups. You cannot do that, boy, said Harwin, who was Hullen's son.
It be a mercy to kill them, Holland said. Bran looked to his lord father for rescue, but got only a frown, a furrowed brow. Holland speaks truly, son. Better a swift death than a hard one from cold and starvation. No! He could feel tears welling in his eyes, and he looked away. He did not want to cry in front of his father. Robb resisted stubbornly. Sir Roderick's red bitch whelped again last week, he said. It was a small litter, only 2 live pups. She'll have milk enough. She'll rip them apart when they try to nurse. Lord Stark, Jon said. It was strange to hear him call father that, so formal. Bran looked at him with desperate hope. There are 5 pups, he told father. 3 male, 2 female. What of it, Jon? You have 5 true-born children, Jon said. 3 sons, 2 daughters. The direwolf is the sigil of your house. Your children are meant to have these pups, my lord. Bran saw his father's face change, saw the other man exchange glances. He loved Jon with all his heart at that moment. Even at 7, Bran understood what his brother had done. The Count had come right only because Jon had admitted himself. He had included the girls, included even Rickon, the baby, but not the bastard who bore the surname Snow, the name that custom decreed he'd given to all those in the north unlucky enough to be born with no name of their own. Their father understood as well. You want no pup for yourself, Jon? He asked softly. The direwolf graces the banners of House Stark, Jon pointed out. I am no Stark, father. The Lord Father regarded Jon thoughtfully. Robb rushed into the silence he left. I will nurse him myself, father, he promised. I will soak a towel with warm milk and give him suck from that. Me too, Bran echoed. The Lord weighed his sons long and carefully with his eyes. Easy to say and harder to do. I will not have you wasting the servants' time with this. If you want these pups, you will feed them yourselves. Is that understood? Bran nodded eagerly. The pup squirmed in his grasp, licked at his face with a warm tongue. You must train them as well, their father said. You must train them. The kennel master will have nothing to do with these monsters, I promise you that. And the gods help you if you neglect them, or brutalize them, or train them badly. These are not dogs to beg for treats and slink off at a kick. A direwolf will rip a man's arm off his shoulder as easily as a dog will kill a rat. Are you sure you want this? Yes, father, Bran said. Yes, Robb agreed. The pups may die anyway, despite all you do. They won't die, Robb said. We won't let them die. Keep them, then. Jory, Desmond, gather up the pups. It's time we were back to Winterfell. It was not until they were mounted on their way that Bran allowed himself to taste the sweet air of victory. By then his pup was snuggled inside his leathers, warm against him, safe for the long ride home. Bran was wondering what to name him. Halfway across the bridge, Jon pulled up suddenly. What is it, Jon? Their Lord Father asked. Can't you hear it? Bran could hear the wind in the trees, the clatter of their hooves on the ironwood planks, the whimpering of his hungry pup, but Jon was listening to something else. There, Jon said. He swung his horse around and galloped back across the bridge. They watched him dismount where the direwolf lay dead in the snow, watched him kneel. A moment later he was riding back to them, smiling. He must have crawled away from the others, Jon said. Or been driven away, their father said, looking at the 6th pup. His fur was white, where the rest of the litter was gray. His eyes were as red as the blood of the ragged man who had died that morning. Bran thought it curious that this pup alone would have opened his eyes while the others were still blind. An albino, Theon Greyjoy said with a wry amusement. This one will die even faster than the others. Jon Snow gave his father's ward a long, chilling look. I think not, Greyjoy, he said. This one belongs to me. Ghost. Catelyn. Chapter 2. Catelyn. Whatever. Should I just skip chapters? I don't know. Is this a good chapter? It's short, okay. Catelyn had never liked this Godswood. She had been born at Tully, at River Run, far to the south, on the Red Fork at the Trident. The Godswood, there was a garden, bright and airy, where all the redwoods spread dappled shadows across tinkling streams. Birds sang from the hidden nests, and the air was spicy with the scent of flowers. The gods of Winterfell kept a different sort of wood. It was a dark, primal place, 3 acres of old forest untouched for 10,000 years as the gloomy castle rose around it. It smelled of moist earth and decay. No redwoods grew here. This was a wood of stubborn, sentinel trees armored in gray-green needles, of mighty oaks, of ironwoods as old as the realm itself. Here, thick black trunks crowded close together, while twisted branches wove a dense canopy overhead, and misshapen roots were wrestled beneath the soil. This was a place of deep silence and brooding shadows, and the gods who lived here had no names. But she knew she would find her husband here tonight. Whenever he took a man's life, afterward he would seek the quiet of the gods would. Catelyn had anointed with the 7 oils, and named in the rainbow of light that filled the sept of Riverrun. She was of the faith, like her father and grandfather and his father before him. Her gods had names, and their faces were as familiar as the faces of her parents. Worship was a septon with a censer, the smell of incense, a 7-sided crystal alive with the light, voices raised in song. The Tullys kept a god's wood, as all the great houses did, but it was only a place to walk or read or lie in the sun. Worship was for the sept. For her sake, Ned had built a small sept where she might sing to the 7 faces of God, but the blood of the first men still flowed in the veins of the Starks, and his own gods were the old ones, the nameless, faceless gods of the greenwood they shared with the vanished children of the forest. At the center of the grove, in an ancient weirwood, brooded over a small pool where the waters were black and cold. The heart tree, Ned called it. The weirwood's bark was white as bone, its leaves dark red, like 1,000 blood-stained hands. A face had been carved in the trunk of the great tree, its features long and melancholy. The deep-cut eyes red with dried sap and strangely watchful. They were old, those eyes, older than Winterfell itself. They had seen Brandon the Builder set the first stone, if the tales were true. They had watched the castle's granite walls rise around them. It was said that the children of the forest had carved the faces in the trees during the dawn centuries, before the coming of the first men across the narrow sea. In the south, the last weirwoods had been cut down or burned out 1,000 years ago, except on the Isle of Faces, where the green men kept their silent watch. Up here it was different. Here every castle had its godswood, and every godswood had its heart tree, and every heart tree its face. Catelyn found her husband beneath the weirwood, seated on a moss-covered stone. The great sword Ice was across his lap, and he was cleaning the blade in those waters, black as night. 1,000 years of humus lay thick upon the godswood floor, swallowing the sound of her feet, but the red eyes of the weirwood seemed to follow her as she came. "Ned," she called softly. He lifted his head to look at her. "Catelyn," he said. His voice was distant and formal. "Where are the children?" He would always ask her that. In the kitchen, arguing about names for the wolf pups. She spread her cloak on the forest floor and sat beside the pool, her back to the weirwood. She could feel the eyes watching her, but she did her best to ignore them. Arya is already in love, and Sansa is charmed and gracious, but Rickon is not quite sure. "He is afraid?" Ned asked. "A little," she admitted. "He's only 3. Ned frowned. "He must learn to face his fears. He will not be 3 forever, and winter is coming." "Yes," Catelyn agreed. The words gave her a chill, as they always did. The Stark words. Every noble house had its words. Family mottos, touchstones, prayers of sort. They boasted of honor and glory, promised loyalty and truth, swore faith and courage. All but the Starks. "Winter is coming," said the Stark words. Not for the first time. She reflected on what a strange people these Northerners were. "The men died well, I'll give him that," Ned said. He had a swatch of oiled leather in one hand. He ran it lightly up the greatsword as he spoke, polishing the metal to a dark glow. "I was glad for Bran's sake. You would have been proud of Bran." "I am always proud of Bran," Catelyn replied, watching the sword as he stroked it. She could see the rippling deep within the steel, where the metal had been folded back on itself 100 times in the forging. Catelyn had no love for swords, but she could not deny that ice had its own beauty. It had been forged in Valyria, before the doom had come to the old freehold, when the ironsmiths had worked their metal with spells as well as hammers. For 100 years, 400 years old it was, and as sharp as the day it was forged. The name it bore was older still, a legacy from the Age of Heroes, when the Starks were king in the north. He was the 4th
this year, Ned Grimley. He was 4th this year, Ned Grimley said. Fucking hell. Okay, let me restart. Holy shit. He was the 4th this year, Ned said grimly. The poor man was half mad. Something had put fear in him so deep that my words could not reach him. He sighed. Ben writes... Wait, who's saying that? Ben writes that the strength of the Night's Watch is down below 1,000. It's not only desertions, they are losing men on rangings as well. Is it the wildlings? She asked. Who else? Ned lifted ice, looked down the cool steel length of it. And it will only grow worse. The day may come when I will have no choice but to call the banners and ride north to deal with this king beyond the wall, for good and all. Beyond the wall? The thought made Catelyn shudder. Ned saw the dread on her face. Mance Rayder is nothing for us to fear. There are darker things beyond the wall. She glanced behind her at the heart tree, the pale bark and red eyes, watching, listening, thinking its long, slow thoughts. His smile was gentle. You listen to too many of old Nan's stories. Sorry. The others are dead as the children of the forest, gone 8,000 years. Maester Luwin will tell you they never lived at all. No living man has ever seen one. Until this morning, no living man had ever seen a direwolf either, Catelyn reminded him. I ought to know better than to argue with a Tully, he said with a rueful smile. He slid ice back into its sheath. You did not come here to tell me crib tales. I know how little you like this place. What is it, my lady? Catelyn took her husband's hand. There was grievous news today, my lord. I did not wish to trouble you until you had cleansed yourself. There was no way to soften the blow, so she told him straight. I am so sorry, my love. Jon Arryn is dead. His eyes found hers, and she could see how hard it took him, as she had known it would. In his youth, Ned had fostered at the Eyrie, and the childless Lord Arryn had become a second father to him and his fellow ward, Robert Baratheon. When the Mad King Aerys II Targaryen had demanded their heads, the Lord of the Eyrie had raised his moon and falcon banners in revolt rather than give up those who had pledged to protect. And one day, 15 years ago, the second father had become a brother as well, as he and Ned stood together in the Septet River Run to wed 2 sisters, the daughters of Lord Hoster Tully. John, he said, is this news certain? It was the king's seal, and the letter is in Robert's own hand. I saved it for you. He said Lord Arryn was taken quickly. Even Maester Pycelle was helpless, but he brought the milk of the poppy, so John did not linger long in pain. That is some small mercy, I suppose, he said. She could see the grief on his face, but even then he thought first of her. Your sister, he said, and John's boy, what word of them? The message said only that they were well and had returned to the Eyrie, Catelyn said. I wish they had gone to River Run instead. The Eyrie is high and lonely, and it was never her place, and it was ever her husband's place, not hers. Lord John's memory will haunt each stone. I know my sister. She needs the comfort of her family and friends around her. Your uncle waits in the Vale, does he not? John named him Knight of the Gate, I'd heard. Catelyn nodded. Brendan will do what he can for her and for the boy. That is some comfort, but still... Go to her, Ned urged. Take the children, fill her halls with noise and shouts and laughter. That boy of hers needs other children around him, and Liza should not be alone in her grief. Would that I could, Catelyn said. The letter had other tidings. The king is riding to Winterfell to seek you out. It took Ned a moment to comprehend her words, but when the understanding came, the darkness left his eyes. Robert is coming here? When she nodded, a smile broke across his face. Catelyn wished she could share his joy, but she had heard the talk in the yards. A direwolf dead in the snow, a broken antler in his throat. Dread coiled within her like a snake, but she forced herself to smile at this man she loved, this man who put no faith in signs. I knew that would please you, she said. We should send word to your brother on the wall. Yes, of course, he agreed. Ben will want to be here. I should tell Maester Luwin to send his swiftest bird. Ned rose and pulled her to her feet. Damnation, how many years has it been? And he's given us no more than a notice than this? How many in his party did the message say? I should think 100 knights at the least, with all their retainers, and half again as many free riders. Cersei and the children travel with them. Robert will keep an easy pace for their sakes, he said. It is just as well. That will give us more time to prepare. The Queen's brothers are also in the party, she told him. Ned grimaced at that. There was small love between him and the Queen's family. Catelyn knew. The Lannisters of Casterly Rock had come late to Robert's cause, when victory was all but certain, and yet he'd never forgiven them. Well, if the price for Robert's company is an infestation of Lannisters, so be it. It sounds as though Robert is bringing half his court. Where the king goes, the realm follows, she said. It would be good to see the children. The youngest was still suckling at the Lannister's woman's teat the last time I saw him. He must be, 5 by now? Prince Tommen is 7, she told him. The same age as Bran. Please, Ned, guard your tongue. The Lannister woman is our queen, and her pride is said to grow with every passing year. Ned squeezed her hand. There must be a feast, of course, with singers, and Robert will want to hunt. I shall send Jory south with an honor guard to meet them on the King's Road and escort them back. Gods, how are we going to feed them all? On his way already, you said. Damn this man. Damn his royal hide. Daenerys. Chapter 3? Question mark? Her brother held the gown up for her inspection. This is beauty. Touch it. Go on. Caress the fabric. Dany touched it. The cloth was so smooth that it seemed to run through her fingers like water. She could not remember ever wearing anything so soft. It frightened her. She pulled her hand away. Is it really mine? A gift from the Magister Illyrio, Viserys said, smiling. Her brother was in a high mood tonight. The color will bring out the violet in your eyes, and you shall have gold as well, the jewels of all sorts. Illyrio was promised tonight you must look like a princess. A princess, Dany thought. She'd forgotten what that was like. Perhaps she had never really known. Why does he give us so much? She asked. What does he want from us? For nigh on half a year they had lived in the Magister's house, eating his food, pampered by his servants. Sorry, just smacked my mic. Dany was 13, old enough to know that such gifts seldom come without their price, here in the free city of Pentos. Illyrio is no fool, Daenerys said. He was a gaunt young man with nervous hands and a feverish look in his pale lilac eyes. The Magister knows that I will not forget my friends when I come into my throne. Dany said nothing. Magister Illyrio was a dealer in spices. Gemstones, dragon bone, and other less savory things. He had friends in all of the 9 free cities. It was said, and even beyond, in Vastothrak and the fabled lands beside the Jade Sea. It was also said that he never held a friend he wouldn't cheerfully sell for the right price. Dany listened to talk in the streets, and she heard these things, but she knew better than to question her brother when he wove his webs of dream. His anger was a terrible thing when roused. Viserys called it waking the dragon. Her brother hung the gown beside the door. Illyrio will send the slaves to bathe you. Be sure you wash off the stink of the stables. Khal Drogo has 1,000 horses tonight. He looks for a different sort of mount. He studied her critically. You still slouch. Straighten yourself. He pushed back her shoulders with his hands. Let them see that you have a woman's shape now. His fingers brushed lightly over her budding breast and tightened on a nipple. You will not fail me tonight. If you do, it will go hard for you. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you? His fingers twisted her, then the pinch cruelly hard through the fabric of her tunic. Do you? He repeated. No, Dany said meekly. Her brother smiled. Good. He touched her hair, almost with affection. When they write the history of my reign, sweet sister, they will say that it began tonight. When he was gone, Dany went to her window and looked out wistfully at the waters of the bay. The square brick towers of Pentos were black silhouettes outlined against the setting sun. Dany could hear singing of the red priests as they lit their night fires and the shouts of ragged children playing games beyond the walls of the estate. For a moment she wished she could be out there with them, barefoot and breathless and dressed in tatters, with no past and no future, no feast to attend at Khal Drogo's manse. Somewhere beyond the sunset, across the narrow sea, lay a land of green hills and flowered plains and great rushing rivers, where towers of dark stone rose amidst magnificent blue-gray mountains, and armored knights rode to battle beneath the banners of their lords. The Dothraki called that land Rash Andahali, the land of the Andals and the free cities. They talked of Westeros and the Sunset Kingdoms. Her brother had a simpler name. Our land, he called it. The words were like a prayer with him. If he said them enough, the gods were sure to hear. Ours by blood right, taken from us by treachery, but ours still, ours forever. You do not steal from the dragon. Oh no, the dragon remembers. And perhaps the dragon did remember, but Dany could not. She had never seen this land her brother said was theirs. The realm beyond the narrow sea. These places he talked of, Casterly Rock and the Eyrie, High Garden and the Vale of Arryn, Dorne and the Isle of Faces, they were just words to her. Viserys had been a boy of 8 when they fled the King's Landing to escape advancing armies of the usurper, but Daenerys had only been a quickening in their mother's womb. Yet sometimes Dany would picture the way it had been. So often had her brother told her the stories, the midnight flight to Dragonstone, moonlight shimmering on the ship's black sails, her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident and dying for the woman he loved. The sack of King's Landing by the ones Viserys called the usurper's dogs, the lords Lannister and Stark. Princess Elia of Dorne pleading for mercy as Rhaegar's heir was ripped from her breast and murdered before her eyes. The polished skulls of the last dragon staring down sightlessly from the walls of the throne room, while the Kingslayer opened father's throat with a golden sword. She had been born on Dragonstone 9 moons after their flight, while a raging summer storm threatened to rip the island fastness apart. They said that storm was terrible. The Targaryen fleet was smashed while it lay at anchor, and huge stone blocks were ripped from the parapets and set hurtling into the wild waters of the narrow sea. Her mother had died birthing her, and for that her brother Viserys had never forgiven her. She did not remember Dragonstone either. They had run again just before the usurper's brother set sail with his new-built fleet. By then only Dragonstone itself, the ancient seat of their house, had remained of the 7 kingdoms. That had once been theirs. It would not remain for long. The garrison had been prepared to sell them to the usurper, but one night Sir Willem Darry and 4 loyal men had broken into the nursery and stolen them both, along with her wet nurse, and set sail under cover of darkness for the safety of the Bravosian coast. She remembered her Sir Willem dimly, a great grey bear of a man, half-blind, roaring and bellowing orders from the sick bed. The servants had lived in terror of him, but he had always been kind to Dany. He called her little princess and sometimes my lady, and his hands were soft as old leather. He never left his bed, though, and the smell of sickness clung to him day and night, a hot, moist, sickly, sweet odor. That was when they lived in Braavos, in the big house with the red door. Dany had her own room there, with a lemon tree outside her window. After Sir Willem had died, the servants had stolen what little money they had left, and soon after they had been put out of the big house. Dany had cried when the red door closed behind them forever. They had wandered since then, from Braavos to Myr, from Myr to Tyrosh, and on to Kor and Volantis and Lys, and never staying long in any one place. Her brother would not allow it. The usurper's hired knives were close behind them. He insisted, though Dany had never seen one. At first, the magisters and archons and mages and merchant princes were pleased to welcome the last Targaryens to their homes and tables, but as the years passed and the usurper continued to sit upon the Iron Throne, doors closed and their lives grew meaner. Years passed and they had been forced to sell their last few treasures, and now even the coin they had gotten from Mother's crown had gone. In the alleys and wine sinks of Pentos, they called her brother the Beggar King. Dany did not want to know what they called her. "We will have it all back some day, sweet sister," he would promise her. Sometimes his hand shook when he talked about it. "The jewels and the silks, Dragonstone and King's Landing, the Iron Throne, and the 7 kingdoms. All they have taken from us, we will have it back." Viserys lived for that day. All that Daenerys wanted back was the big house with the red door, the lemon tree outside her window, the childhood she never had known. There came a soft knock on her door. "Come," Dany said, turning away from the window. Illyrio's servants entered, bowed, and set about their business. They were slaves, a gift from one of the Magister's many Dothraki friends. There was no slavery in the free city of Pentos. Nonetheless, they were slaves. The old woman, small and grey as a mouse, never said a word, but the girl made up for it. She was Illyrio's favorite, a fair-haired, blue-eyed wench of 16 who chattered constantly as she worked. They filled her bath with hot water, brought up from the kitchen, and scented it with fragrant oils. The girl pulled the rough cotton tunic over Danny's head and helped her into the tub. The water was scalding hot, but Daenerys did not flinch or cry out. She liked the heat. It made her feel clean. Besides, her brother had often told her that it was never too hot for a Targaryen. "Ours is the house of the blood," he would say. "The fire is in our blood." The old woman washed her long, silver-pale hair and gently combed out the snags, all in silence. The girl scrubbed her back and her feet and told her how lucky she was. Drogo is so rich that even his slaves wear golden collars. 100,000 men ride in his Khalasar, and his palace in Vastothrak has 200 rooms and doors of solid silver. There was more like that, so much more. What a handsome man the Khal was, so tall and fierce, fearless in battle, the best rider ever to mount a horse, a demon archer. Daenerys said nothing. She had always assumed that she would wed Viserys when she came of age. For centuries, the Targaryens had married brother to sister, since Aegon the Conqueror had taken his sisters to bride. The line must be kept pure. Viserys, the golden blood of old Valyria, the blood of the dragon. Dragons did not mate with the beasts of the field, and Targaryens did not mingle their blood with that of lesser men. Yet now Viserys schemed to sell her to a stranger, a barbarian. When she was clean, the slaves helped her from the water and toweled her dry. The girl brushed her hair until it shone like molten silver, while the old woman anointed her with the spice flower perfume of the Dothraki plains. A dab on each wrist, behind her ears, on the tips of her breasts, and one last one, cool on her lips, down there between her legs. Bye, Conan. Have a good one, dude. Have a great Christmas. They dressed her in the wisps that Magister Illyrio had sent up, and then the gown, a deep plum silk to bring out the violet in her eyes. The girl slid the gilded sandals onto her feet, while the old woman fixed the tiara in her hair and slid golden bracelets crusted with amethysts around her wrist. Last of all came the collar, a heavy golden torque emblazoned with ancient Valyrian glyphs. "Now you look all a princess," the girl said breathlessly when they were done. Dany glanced at her image in the silvered looking glass that Illyrio had so thoughtfully provided. A princess, she thought, but she was remembered that the girl had said how Khal Drogo was so rich even his slaves wore golden collars. She felt a sudden chill, and goose flesh pimpled her bare arms. Her brother was waiting in the cool of the entry hall, seated on the edge of the pool, his hand trailing in the water. He rose when she appeared and looked over her critically. "Stand there," he told her. "Turn around. Yes, good. You look regal, Magister," Illyrio said, stepping through an archway. He moved with surprising delicacy for such a massive man. Beneath those garments of flame-colored silk, rolls of fat jiggled as he walked. Gemstones glittered on every finger, and his men had oiled his forked yellow beard until it shone like real gold. "May the Lord of Light shower you with blessings on this most fortunate day, Princess Daenerys," the Magister said as he took her hand. He bowed his head, showing a thin glimpse of crooked yellow teeth through the gold of his beard. "She is a vision, your grace, a vision," he told her brother. "Drogo will be enraptured." "She's too skinny," Viserys said. His hair, the same silver blonde as hers, had been pulled back tightly behind his head and fastened with a dragon bone brooch. It was a severe look that emphasized the hard, gaunt lines of his face. He rested his hand on the hilt of the sword that Illyrio had lent him and said, "Are you sure that Khal Drogo likes his women this young?" "She has had her blood. She is old enough for the Khal," Illyrio told him, not for the first time. "Look at her, that silver gold hair, those purple eyes. She is the blood of old Valyria, no doubt, no doubt, and high-born. Daughter of the old king, sister to the new, she cannot fail to entrance our Drogo." When he released her hand, Daenerys found herself trembling. "I suppose," her brother said doubtfully, "the savages have queer tastes, boys, horses, sheep." "Best not suggest this to Khal Drogo," Illyrio said. Anger flashed in her brother's lilac eyes. "Do you take me for a fool?" The Magister bowed slightly. "I take you for a king." Kings lack the caution of common men. My apologies if I have given offense." He turned away and clapped his hands for bearers. The streets of Pentos were pitch dark when they set out in Illyrio's elaborately carved plankin. 2 servants went ahead to light their way, carrying ornate oil lanterns with panes of pale blue glass, while a dozen strong men hoisted the poles to their shoulders. It was warm and close inside, behind the curtains. Danny could smell the stench of Illyrio's paled flesh through his heavy perfumes. Her brother sprawled out on his pillows beside her, never noticed. His mind was way across the narrow sea. "We won't need his whole Khalasar," Viserys said. His fingers toyed with the hilt of his borrowed blade, though Danny knew he had never used a sword in earnest. 10,000, that would be enough. I could sweep the 7 kingdoms with 10,000 Dothraki screamers. The realm will rise for its rightful king. Tyrell, Redwine, Dari, Greyjoy, they have no more love for the usurper than I do. The Dornish men burn to avenge Elia and her children, and the small folk would be with us. They cry out for their king. He looked at Illyrio anxiously. "They do, don't they?" "They are your people. They love you well," Magister Illyrio said amiably. "In Holdfast, all across the realm, men lift secret toasts to your health, while women sew dragon banners and hide them against the day of your return from across the water." He gave a massive shrug. "Or so my agents tell me." Danny had no agents, no way of knowing what anyone was doing or thinking across the narrow sea, but she mistrusted Illyrio's sweet words as she mistrusted everything about Illyrio. Her brother was nodding eagerly, however. "I shall kill the usurper myself," he promised, who had never killed anyone, "as he killed my brother Rhaegar, and Lannister too, the Kingslayer, for what he did to my father." "That would be most fitting," Magister Illyrio said. Danny saw the smallest hint of a smile playing around his full lips. Her brother did not notice. Nodding, he pushed back a curtain and stared off into the night, and Danny knew he was fighting the Battle of the Trident once again. The 9 towered manse of Khal Drogo sat beside the waters of the bay, its high brick walls overgrown with pale ivy. It had been given to the Khal by the Magisters of Pentos, Illyrio told them. The free cities were always generous with the horse lords. "It is not that we fear these barbarians," Illyrio would explain with a smile. "The Lord of Light would hold our city walls against 1,000,000 Dothraki, or so the Red Priests promise. Yet why take chances, when their friendship comes so cheap?" The plannikin was stopped at the gate, the curtains pulled roughly back by one of the house guards. He had copper skin and dark almond eyes of Dothraki, but his face was hairless, and he wore the spiked bronze cap of the Unsullied. He looked them over coldly. Magister Illyrio growled something to him in the rough Dothraki tongue. The guardsman replied in the same voice and waved them through the gates. Danny noticed that her brother's hands were clenched tightly around the hilt of his borrowed sword. He looked almost as frightened as she felt. "Insolent eunuch," Viserys muttered as the plannikin lurched up toward the manse. Magister Illyrio's words were honey. "Many important men will be at the feast tonight. Such men have enemies. The Khal must protect his guests, yourself chief among them, your grace. No doubt the usurper would pay well for your head." "Oh yes," Viserys said darkly. "He has tried, Illyrio, I promise you that. His hired knives follow us everywhere. I am the last dragon, and he will not sleep easy while I live." The plannikin slowed and stopped. The curtains were thrown back, and a slave offered a hand to help Daenerys out. His collar, she noted, was ordinary bronze. Her brother followed, one hand still clenched hard around his sword hilt. It took 2 strong men to get Magister Illyrio back on his feet. Inside the manse, the air was heavy with the scent of spices, pinchfire and sweet lemon and cinnamon. They were escorted across the entry hall, where a mosaic of colored glass depicted the doom of Valyria. Oil burned in black iron lanterns all along the walls. Beneath an arch of twinning stone leaves, a eunuch sang their coming. "Viserys of the House of Targaryen, the 3rd of his name," he called in a high, sweet voice. "King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. His sister, Daenerys Stormborn, Princess of Dragonstone. His honorable host, Illyrio Mopatis, Magister of the Free City of Pentos." They stepped past the eunuch into a pillared courtyard overgrown in pale ivy.
Moonlight painted the leaves in shades of bone and silver as the guests drifted among them. Many were Dothraki horse lords, big men with red-brown skin, their drooping mustachios bound in metal rings, their black hair oiled and braided and hung with bells. Yet among them moved bravos and sellswords from Pentos, and Mir and Tyrosh, and a red priest even fatter than Illyrio, hairy men from the port of Ibn, and lords from the Summer Isles with skin as black as ebony. Daenerys looked at them all in wonder, and realized, with a sudden start of fear, that she was the only woman there. Illyrio whispered to them. "Those three are Drogo's blood riders there," he said. "By the pillar is Khal Moro with his son Rogaro. The man with the green beard is the brother of Archon of Tyrosh, and the man behind him is Ser Jorah Mormont." The last name caught Daenerys. A knight. "No less," Illyrio smiled through his beard, "anointed with the 7 oils by the High Septon himself." "What is he doing here?" she blurted. "The usurper wanted his head," Illyrio told them. "Some trifling affront. He sold some portraits to a Taroshi slaver instead of giving them to the Night's Watch. Absurd law. A man should be able to do as he likes with his own chattel." Chattel? "I shall wish to speak with Ser Jorah before the night is done," her brother said. Dany found herself looking at the knight curiously. He was an older man, past 40 and balding, but still strong and fit. Instead of silks and cottons, he wore wool and leather. His tunic was a dark green, embroidered with the likeness of a black bear standing on 2 legs. She was still looking at the strange man from the homeland she had never known, when Magister Illyrio placed a moist hand on her bare shoulder. "Over there, sweet princess," he whispered. "There is the Khal himself." Dany wanted to run and hide, but her brother was looking at her, and if she displeased him, she knew she would wake the dragon. Anxiously, she turned and looked at the man Viserys hoped would ask to wed her before the night was done. The slave girl had not been far wrong. She thought Khal Drogo was a head taller than the tallest man in the room, yet somehow light on his feet, as graceful as the panther in Illyrio's menagerie. He was younger than she thought, no more than 30. His skin was the color of polished copper, his thick mustachios bound with gold and bronze rings. "I must go and make my submissions," Magister Illyrio said. "Wait here, I shall bring him to you." Her brother took her by the arm as Illyrio waddled over to the call, his fingers squeezing so hard that they hurt. "Do you see his braid, sweet sister?" Drogo's braid was black as midnight and heavy with scented oil, hung with tiny bells that rang softly as he moved. It swung well past his belt, below even his buttocks, the end of it brushing against the back of his thighs. "You see how long it is," Viserys said. "When Dothraki are defeated in combat, they cut off their braids in disgrace, so the world will know their shame. Khal Drogo has never lost a fight. He is Aegon the Dragon Lord, come again, and you will be his queen." Dany looked at Khal Drogo. His face was hard and cruel, his eyes as cold and dark as onyx. Her brother hurt her sometimes when she woke the dragon, but he did not frighten her the way this man frightened her. "I don't want to be his queen," she heard herself say in a small, thin voice. "Please, please, Viserys, I don't want to. I want to go home." "Home?" He kept his voice low, but she could hear the fury in his tone. "How are we to go home, sweet sister? They took our home from us." He drew her into the shadows out of sight, his fingers digging into her skin. "How are we to go home?" he repeated, meaning King's Landing and Dragonstone and all the realm they had lost. Dany had only meant their rooms in Illyrio's estate, no true home surely, though all they had, but her brother did not want to hear that. There was no home there for him. Even the big house with the red door had not been home for him. His fingers dug hard into her arm, demanding an answer. "I don't know," she said at last, her voice breaking. Tears welled in her eyes. "I do," he said sharply. "We go home with an army, sweet sister, with Khal Drogo's army. That is how we go home. And if you must wed him and bed him for that, you will," he smiled at her. "I'd let his whole Khalasar fuck you, if need be, sweet sister. All 40,000 men and their horses too, if that was what it took to get my army. Be grateful it is only Drogo. In time, you may even learn to like him. Now dry your eyes. Illyrio is bringing him over, and he will not see you crying." Dany turned and saw that it was true. Magister Illyrio, all smiles and bows, was escorting Khal Drogo over to where they stood. She brushed away unfallen tears with the back of her hand. "Smile," Viserys whispered nervously, his hand falling to the hilt of his sword, "and stand up straight. Let him see that you have breasts. God knows you have little enough as it is." Daenerys smiled and stood up straight. That is it. Oh, my nose. Someone should melt this dude's face. Sorry. Dude, I didn't sniffle like that whole time. Pog. I hope you guys liked reading stream. Yeah. Wow. Alright, so I'm gonna end here. Because I have to go do stuff before a specific time. But I'm sorry for like all the short streams recently and not doing a lot of stuff. Like I've just been kind of like trying to figure out what to do. It's been kind of random. But after Christmas, things should go back to normal, or I will try to anyway. Crimson, thank you for the 9 months, dude, with your Prime sub. Thank you so much. Let me know on Discord if you guys think I should do this again. Maybe I could read a different book, or continue reading this one. If I get like enough people who want me to do this, I would love to do this again. I could read like Halo or Batman or something. The first Witcher story. It's like a short story. That'd be cool. So yeah, let me know on Discord. Plug my Discord mods. Post your cookies on Insta, you won't? I'll see if I can remember. If I remember to take a picture of them. But yeah. Thanks. Fucking post something. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna post something. Tonight. 1 year.
1
Styles,
year less
yo.
than 3.
Dude, thank you for the 12 months, 1 year, Styles. Dang. Thank you, dude, so much. And thank you all for hanging with me tonight on this Christmas Eve. Post your Christmas outfit, Tard. I'm gonna do that! This is my outfit! Look, you guys can see. I'll try and take a good picture and post it later. 1 year. Yeah, I will. Okay, I will, dude. After this. Thank you guys for hanging with me. And we're coming up on the new year soon. Excited for that? I don't know. A new year, new more. Still waiting? You know what? I'm gonna get on my Insta tonight, Brandon. I got you. Sorry. So yeah, I hope everybody has a I hope everyone has a great Christmas Eve and Christmas Day tomorrow. I usually like I'm not like excited about it the day before, kind of like when you're going to like Disney or something, or like on a vacation. You're not like excited until you get there and you're like seeing everything. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna be like, it's Christmas, woo, and I'll open the presents I bought myself. Pog.
Just kidding. But yeah. Hope you guys have a great Christmas and great Christmas Eve. Hope you drink lots of hot chocolate and good food and good people and get lots of presents and stay cool and watch The Witcher, because that's what I'm gonna do. So yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Merry Christmas, everybody! Where is it? Okay, bye.
How can you say goodbye, my love, when we haven't even said hello? I see your face, I feel your sadness, I feel your pain.